We go in depth with a look at monkeys and medicine. Healthcare professionals credit biomedical research with any number of A-list therapies, from relieving pain to saving lives, while critics charge such work isn't as productive as it could or should be. News 3's David Douglas has our story tonight, focusing on one of 9 federally funded primate research centers. David.
Yeah, Eric, housed at the UW-Madison, the Wisconsin National Primate Research Center is home to about 1,400 monkeys. After a public debate on the issue months ago, we heard from many of you and decided to take a closer look at the lives of animals who live and sometimes die in the name of research. These are the faces of biomedical research, monkeys part of studies which might one day help eradicate disease, changing lives and the world. And while not everyone sees it that way, it's the kind of change UW researcher Dave O'Connor has dedicated his life to.
It's 2 million people a year who are becoming newly infected with HIV. 2 million. And these are people who have mothers, their fathers. It's leaving entire generation of orphans in Africa.
O'Connor's laboratory is a busy and high-tech place designed to help develop a vaccine to prevent the transmission of HIV/AIDS. Specifically, O'Connor studies the immune system and how it reacts to the virus, which is known as SIV, or simian immunodeficiency virus, in monkeys.
They're genetic cousins. They're very closely related to one another. And by infecting non-human primates with these SIV strains, we have the ability to monitor the first few weeks of infection.
The research done in cynomolgus macaque monkeys, he says, is essential because HIV is undetectable in humans for weeks or even months after infection. Lost time for measuring critical immune responses.
There's no way to study these early events of HIV infection except by looking at SIV-infected macaques.
And it's that kind of statement that has become a lightning rod for people who oppose the monkey research model.
Our topic tonight is the ethics of experimenting on monkeys. There seems to be this widespread belief that people are indeed more valuable than monkeys.
Rick Merolds is one of those people in opposition. Just last week, he hosted a radio show on Madison's WORT-FM to discuss the ethics and efficacy of non-human primate research.
I think there are areas of research on animals where we have learned something and it has benefited people.
What Merolds takes issue with are experiments he feels might never translate to humans, like O'Connor's work with SIV-infected monkeys, coupled with the belief findings will eventually translate to HIV.
If animals don't get the disease, they can't be good models of the disease. We people like the idea that somebody else is getting tested before we are.
But with the AIDS epidemic claiming 2 million global lives in 2008, should researchers stop trying?
We would never say that for people. We would never take any group of people against their will and experiment on them and use the same rationale.
O'Connor argues non-human primate AIDS research has already saved lives after a vaccine that worked in some animals caused disease in younger macaques.
So it was the work that was done in non-human primates that prevented us from making a potentially catastrophic mistake in advancing these sorts of attenuated vaccines, which have been used against a wide variety of other diseases, into people.
The 33-year-old believes in his lifetime there will be a vaccine against HIV/AIDS. And while his work in animals isn't easy, this researcher feels his efforts are better than the alternative.
I know that by the time we've finished conducting this interview, more people will have become infected with HIV around the world than the total number of monkeys my lab has used in SIV research in the last 5 years.
And if you're wondering, O'Connor has infected a total of 28 monkeys with SIV. 6 are still living, and he says it goes both ways. There are clinical studies done on humans with HIV, which has helped them with their research, and vice versa.
And we understand there are hundreds, right, of other studies involving, I guess, what they call non-human primates as well, correct?
Well, take, for instance, Dr. Timothy Camp. He's a stem cell researcher and a cardiologist. He has successfully grown heart muscle cells, showing us one day the heart could hopefully repair itself. He's not currently using primates in his work, but has previously, and says doing so is key to refining scientific understanding.
As a clinician, my goal is to test therapies in patients that we have a lot of confidence, a lot of hope that they'll exhibit a benefit, but also that they'll be safe. And I think eliminating animal testing prematurely could make those initial tests in patients more of a risk for patients, and they're my priority.
So you might be wondering, what do critics suggest if monkeys aren't used as part of medicine? Their answer is often clinical trials, where people who can make their own decisions decide to be part of testing a therapy, which researchers say applies sometimes, but not always.
And it's such a hot topic, worthy of another part tomorrow, correct?
Tomorrow night at 10, we're going to go back into the Wisconsin National Primate Research Center. We're going to get a look at how the animals are cared for. You're going to meet the head veterinarian responsible for all of the 1,400-plus monkeys there. And we are going to ask that question that lots of people ask. Do cages provide a good life for the animals? Yes or no? There's probably not a yes or no answer, but we'll let you hear both sides tomorrow at 10.
All right, we appreciate that and look forward to it. David Douglas reporting. David, thank you very much.